think we're live. Hello everyone, I'm Dave,
I'm Terry.
and today we're back for lesson number 4 from this little book right here called Relationships 101 by John Maxwell. And this little book has 8 powerful lessons. And first week we talked about question number 1. He asked 8 questions for us to think about. And week 1 we talked about why are relationships important to success. Week 2 we talked about what do I need to know about others. And last week we talked about how I can encourage others. And all 3 of those lessons are powerful. And I have a participant guide, a discussion guide on my website that you can get yourself a free copy to follow along each week, or follow along with us tonight, or you can just take some notes. But go to my website and sign up and get that free PDF copy of this participant guide. And for those watching us on Facebook, please leave your comments. Let us know you're there. Give us your thoughts, ask your questions, and periodically we'll go back and check those comments. And for those other pages that we have this streamed on, I'll go back and respond to those questions then, because I can only watch the one page tonight. We're also on YouTube, live on YouTube. So Terry, we're into week 4. So why don't you tell us what the lesson is tonight and what the central theme of this lesson is?
The question to focus on is how can I connect with people?
Okay.
And it says always remember the heart comes before the head.
Okay. So we're going to talk about emotions and feelings and how other people respond to us and how we can use that to enrich our relationships. We need to know this because we can be the smartest person someone knows, but if we leave them with the impression that they're not important, that we don't value them, they might not remember what we told them. And we know that to be true, don't we? All right, so let's talk a little bit about when others allow us to influence them, they need 3 heart questions answered. And before they allow us into the world or into their head, they're thinking some things when we're talking to them. Our first impression really matters. And most people have 3 questions kind of running in the background of their mind when we're trying to influence them or talk to them or motivate them into something. So Terry, let's talk about that first question. What is that first question?
Can I trust you?
Yeah. They may not just come out and say, I don't trust you, but some people do.
Yeah.
And it's nice when they do, because then we know where we stand. And we know we need to work on that relationship more. But we're always thinking, can I really trust this person? Can I trust what they know? Can I trust them with my feelings and emotions and what I know? So what's the second question that you sometimes
Do
ask?
you actually care for me?
Yeah. That's a biggie, isn't it? When it doesn't matter, especially if someone is in leadership or an influence in our lives, we want to know that we actually matter to them. Whether we're a child and it's our parent, whether we're on a team and our supervisor or leader is engaging us and trying to influence us or motivate us, we really want to know if they really care about us as a person, not just what we do or what we know. And what is the third question they usually ask?
Can you help me?
Can you help me? Well, they usually will get to that part until we know they can trust us and that we're there, that we do care for them. Then we can kind of navigate that. Maybe we can help them in some way. Because we all need a little help sometimes, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
But we need to trust the person we're getting the help from, and we need to know that they really care for us on some level. All right, let me ask you a question. And this is to the audience too. I really want to hear your responses. But Terry, do you prefer to connect with others one-on-one or with an audience or larger groups?
One-on-one or a small group.
Okay.
One of the reasons is I don't hear well. So if it's a larger group, I have trouble hearing everyone's comments and stuff. So
Yeah.
one-on-one, I can really actually listen.
Well, you're naturally a good listener. And you can't do much listening if you're doing all the talking, can you? So that's pretty much your nature, to be a listener. You're always listening for cues. For one thing, you're listening to find out if you can trust the source that's talking. You're probably wondering if they really care for you with the group. And then you're wondering if what they have to say, can they really help you with it aren't you? I mean, that's three things that.
Well, another thing about the listening is it's turned around. Do I care enough to listen?
Yeah. Yeah. Listening to, not to necessarily respond or give an answer or reply.
To understand.
To understand. That lets the other person know that we value them. So this is important for relationships. And we're talking about some pretty basic stuff that, we sometimes don't think about in our relationships. And a relationship is a two-way street. But someone has to take the lead sometimes in that relationship to initiate some of these principles we're going to talk about. All right, so let's go to our workbook and look at the first statement. The first statement says to connect with others one-on-one or from the stage takes the same skill set, friendly and caring. Now that seems like a given, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But the people who made the biggest impact on us from the stage or from a platform or a podium or whatever
Was the ones who moved our emotions.
they moved our emotions, didn't they? They connected with our heart, didn't they? They made us feel what they were speaking.
Mm-hmm.
They were engaging. They were friendly. They weren't condemning or demeaning. So they showed us that they care by connecting with our heart. Sometimes it takes time if you're preparing a message or a lesson to really think about how people are going to feel about what you're saying. And so that goes into a lot of the preparation. How can I connect with their heart here? Sometimes with a story, sometimes with a personal experience. But there's different ways to do that to become a more effective orator or speaker. All right, so it takes the same skill set. All right, and we're going to talk a little bit about that heart here with statement number 2. What does statement number 2 say, Terry?
It says Frederick Douglass could connect with any audience because he had an uncanny skill of evoking the emotions of others with stories.
Most of us remember who Frederick Douglass was from history. He was a 19th century African American. And I want you to read that little story, Terry, that's on page 36, about what that was said about him as a connector.
It says an outstanding orator and African American leader of the 19th century was Frederick Douglass. It's said that he had a remarkable ability to connect with people and move their hearts when he spoke. Historian Lerone Bennett said of Douglass, he could make people laugh at a slave owner preaching the duties of Christian obedience, could make them see the humiliation of a black maiden ravished by a brutal slave owner, could make them hear the sobs of a mother separated from her child. Through him, people could cry, curse, and feel. Through him, they could live slavery.
Yeah, so he had a way of not being condemning, but getting people to feel the human part of what slavery was doing to people. And he was a powerful speaker, a very intelligent man who helped a lot in that cause to abolish slavery. And, I remember Christian Simpson, one of my coaches, once said, he made a statement that I had a hard time buying into at first, but he said, feelings are stronger than truth. Emotions are stronger than truth. And I thought, nothing's stronger than truth. But what moves most people? Is it truth or is it their feelings?
Well, their feelings.
So for most people, the feelings are more powerful than the truth.
They'll believe them before they believe the truth.
Right, and sometimes even though they know it's the truth, they can't get past how they feel about it. So if we can take the truth, something helpful, and connect with the heart with it and help people feel how this truth is going to benefit them or how it's going to make a bigger impact in their lives, we can change how they feel. So so it's just stating facts, and truth sometimes is not near as effective as moving someone's heart.
Right.
All right. Number 3 in your workbook says, can you name a few people who could connect with the hearts of people? And can you name a few famous people who struggled at connecting with the hearts of others? Terry, what's your thoughts? Do you know someone who can connect with the hearts of people?
I mean, I think our pastor for sure. He definitely connects to the hearts, and that's why we hear him.
Right.
But also remember speakers that I've listened to through the years that I don't even remember their name because they really didn't connect, and I don't remember their message or their name.
Yeah.
So when you connect, you remember their name and their message.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to share a little story about how that was illustrated, and it's been some time back. It's dated, but we can think about times ourselves when someone moved us and how that speaker connected with us, and it seemed natural. And my speaker coach has really talked about how stories move people, true stories, or about yourself or someone or something. It moves people. People like a story. So if we're going to move people's emotions, a lot of times it's got to be woven in with a true story, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And that gets people's interest. They feel it. We watch TV, and a TV show is not very good unless it's got some drama in it, and some conflict and overcoming and drama. So as we're talking to people, when we're doing the talking, we need to be aware of what motivates people. Now, on the other end, when people are not engaging us back, or we're trying to get them to engage them, we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that later. You will share a system. But we have to get to their heart, don't we? We have to find out what's valuable to them and let them talk about it, because people want to share that sometimes. Mm-hmm. Because they want us to know their story as well. All right, number 4 in your workbook says connect publicly and privately with others. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, when I read that, I thought of this woman one time who had talked to me about a certain church. Said that when she went to the church, they were friendly and nice to her, but when they would see her out at Kroger's or out and about in the world, they would not even act like they knew her.
Right.
So she didn't look at them as genuine, as truly caring, because they didn't acknowledge her anywhere but there.
So her emotions got evoked in the opposite direction, didn't it?
Yeah.
She felt, disregarded, disrespected.
Yeah.
And a level of pain happened that caused her to remember the whole entire church because of that one person in the church, maybe.
Yeah.
The same thing goes with work. When we're working with people, and I've had bosses who were friendly and cordial at work, but you'd see them out sometimes, and they would almost pretend like they didn't know you. Mm-hmm. And you think, well, man, they put this face on here. We're real engaging. Were they just doing their job? Well, what it showed me was they didn't really care about me as a person. They were just doing their job. And that really left a lasting impression upon that person years later. I still remember some of those people.
Well, a lot of them just aren't authentic. They're just following the system and doing the right thing, treating people the right way where they have to.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with doing the right thing.
Yeah.
We should have manners. We should treat people well, even though we might not feel it in our hearts at the time. Mm-hmm. But we should take the time to reflect about that other person, about how they feel and how they perceive us. So that little bit of introspection sometimes can change how we feel about a lot of things, mm-hmm. especially about the people we're having relationships with, whether it's personal, business, or whatever. All right, let's look at statement number 5. Terry, what does it say?
Connect with people one at a time.
Okay.
My thoughts on that was, you can, if you want to listen and really hear someone's heart and connect with them, then that's the one you need to be listening to, not everybody else, because you won't really hear them. Yeah. I've actually talked to people who tells you to hold on a minute in the middle of a sentence to check their phone or something. Well, you immediately back out of your conversation, because they really wasn't interested.
Right. They disengaged and you disengaged. So it happens a lot more than we think. We answer texts and phone calls and different things, we get distracted. People are busy.
Yeah.
And I understand that because I was, in my old job, I had a lot of things I was doing at one time. And when someone would come into my space when I was doing something, it would make me uncomfortable because I didn't want to disregard them. So I had to learn how to communicate to them, hey, acknowledge them. Say, I'm really tied up right now. Can we talk in a few minutes or just a little bit later? Or if you'll give me a chance to take care of this, I'll be right with you. One of the things that used to really trouble me was watching customers in line at the service desk, and the phone would ring. And they would walk away from the customer at the counter, the face-to-face encounter, and they would answer the phone. And then they'd take care of what the customer needed on the phone and then come back to the one. And I would just watch their body language. They felt disregarded, aggravated. They began to get impatient because they disengaged to take care of someone they can't even see.
Yeah.
And so we learn to answer the phone and say, hold on, I got a customer right now, and then go back to the phone, take care of that secondary, not secondary person, but that secondary need. Take care of the person in front of you. Give them that one-on-one engagement. I want to move back a little bit to state before. We didn't talk about this, about the publicly and privately. But, when I thought about this statement, I thought about, when you're rewarding people or acknowledging people for what they've done, whether they added value to the team or they did something noteworthy. And oftentimes I would bring people in front of the group or the team and acknowledge them. I noticed they were really uncomfortable with that. And I actually put them in a spot that they didn't like being praised publicly. So I had to learn to acknowledge them privately.
Which is another reason you seek to understand people.
Right.
So you know the introverts and the extroverts. And adults do that a lot with kids, try to pull them out in the open, and they may be an extrovert or an introvert, and it's not healthy for them.
Yeah, and that means we have to know them, right? And it's like John Maxwell always says, if you're a leader or a person of influence or hold a position of authority, always walk slowly through the crowd. Take time to walk through and hear your people. Feel what they're feeling. Acknowledge where they're at in their lives at that particular moment. They have a lot of life outside of that particular thing they're doing.
Yeah.
So when we walk slowly, we get to know them, and then we will know whether they like to be acknowledged publicly or privately. We've got to know them, don't we? It's called relationships. All right, let's talk about statement number 6. Before we do, let's refresh the page here on Facebook. We should be getting, let's look at it again. Please leave us a comment. Let us know you're there. Tell us what you think of the show. Tell us what your thoughts are about some of these statements we're making so we can engage you digitally, maybe not one-on-one, but you're with us in this room, and we want to add value to you. So we want to know what's on your mind about Relationships 101. So Terri, tell us what statement number 6 is.
Put a 10 on everybody's head.
Explain that a little bit.
Value them. It's like the last week said that everyone has seeds of greatness and potential. So we don't have to look at them where they're at. We know that everyone has potential. So go ahead and put a 10 on everyone's head.
Believe in them before they succeed. See their value, because sometimes people can't see their own value. They may be performing up to 3 or 4 as far as on results, but they need someone to believe in them. We talked about that pretty extensively a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So we believe in them. We value them based off their potential, and that's faith, isn't it?
Yeah, and the book was talking about the millionaires. Some of the millionaires, when the common denominator was that they saw the good in people.
Right. Yeah, and they fed off that good in people, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
And not every millionaire. I mean, some people's climbed up and used people, but most of the successful people who've earned a lot of money and are sustainable, they value people, because you know what? People help them get to where they're at, and so we need people. I had another thought on that too, about putting a 10 on people's head, but I think it just left me. We were talking earlier and I slipped it, but that's okay. We've talked about that one 2 or 3 times during this series. So let's talk about statement number 7. What's it say, Terri?
The result of connecting in the workplace is incredible loyalty and strong work ethic. Walk slowly through the crowd.
Yeah, when people feel valued, and we let them know we believe in them, and we've talked about this too, but people live up to our expectations of them. So when we find out where they're at, maybe they're having a struggle that we don't know about. Maybe it's a personal struggle, maybe it's a work struggle, maybe it's a relationship inside on the team that they're having a struggle with, and we help them resolve that so they can get back on track and get back to being the 10 that we know they can be. They value that, and they need to know that we care about them. They start to trust us, and now they know that we can actually help them. They'll reach out for that help. All right, now think about this for a minute. When you encounter others to engage them in conversation, do you tend to focus on them, or do you usually start out with things about yourself? And I have to be honest. Most of my life, I started out with things about myself. I like to tell stories, and I didn't realize until not too long ago that that was not the best relationship builder. Is to talk about me and my life and my experiences. What about you?
I usually would hope that the other person would do all the talking
Yeah.
so that I didn't have to say a lot. Because
Okay.
sometimes I didn't have anything to say and it's uncomfortable.
Okay. Well, that takes us to the next part of this lesson tonight is a system. Tell them about the system. Yeah, and remember, this is just a system to get you started. It's not a system to use as a rule or the only way to have a conversation. But this will help you get started. Tell them about it.
Well, it really helped me because I do have a struggle with, communicating with others. But it's FORM, FORM. It's an acronym that really helped me because have a conversation with people. F stood for family. You can start talking to them about their family, ask them about their children, their sons and daughters, their grandmas. You can just learn about their family. And it's really good when you really listen because you do become interested in that person. You begin to, the emotions come in because you can see what they're saying and you understand their children better. And
Yeah.
so F was family. O is occupation. You can talk to them about, their occupation. What do they do?
Or if they go to school somewhere.
Or, yeah, just those kind of things. And usually you can start that and then you can do the listening. You learn more about them.
And during when you talk about the occupation, we can ask them what they do. Do they like it? What do they not like about it? The conversation can go any which way there. Yeah.
And then R stands for recreation. What do they do for fun? You get to know them better in their downtime.
Yeah.
And M is for mission, which I haven't used a whole lot because if it's someone you're just getting to know, I don't think they're really wanting to share their mission with you until later, until that relationship gets a little stronger. So I usually don't bring up the mission unless I've talked to them a good bit of times.
Yeah, you make a good point because when we jump straight to what matters to you in life. I mean, sometimes that's not, that comes out in the left field and it puts people on the spot. And you know what? A lot of people haven't ever really thought about that too much.
Yeah.
So as we engage in this conversation through F, O, and R, hopefully by then it's become a little more comfortable to talk about things and people open up. And that's when we can explore and help them actually think about their mission in life. And that conversation can actually change the direction of their whole life if we handle it right because they start to think about it. We want them to think as they're speaking, not just to rattle off verbiage between each other. All right. So recap that a little bit, Terry. What is it again?
Form, F, family, O, occupation, R, recreation, and M, mission.
Mission. It's a great conversation starter.
It's helped me.
I've watched you use it, and it actually has because people in the past thought you were a little standoffish, or even some people thought you were stuck up because you were an introvert. You didn't hear. You were stone deaf in your left ear. And so you had to be positioned right, looking people in the face to hear them. So to avoid that discomfort, oftentimes you just kind of go off to yourself or go play with the kids. And it used to make me uncomfortable because I was more of an engaging person. I was looking for you. But once I found out what the problem was, and then once you discovered the system form, I watched you use it. And it changed everything. You were relaxed, the people around you were relaxed, and I was relaxed too because I wasn't uncomfortable thinking about what other people might be thinking about you that I knew wasn't true. So it's a great point. So let's talk about the main point as we wrap up this lesson today. Tell us what the main point is, Terry. Let me get it up here. Hang on a minute. Okay. Out on the stream.
The heart comes before the head. You can't inspire others to move into action without an emotional connection.
We can't, can we? It's just not going to happen. Doesn't matter how much we know. We can impress people with what we know, but we impact people when we connect with their hearts.
How you make them feel.
Yeah. I remember a story, and I think it was in John Maxwell had written about it, but it was back about in the 19th century about Benjamin Disraeli and Gladstone. They were both prime ministers at one time, and they were having a big dinner in England, and this American lady, I can't remember her name right now, but she had dinner with both of them at the table, and she was engaged in a conversation with them both. Well, the reporter asked her, well, what did you think about these two men? What did you think about Gladstone? She said, I thought he was the most intelligent person I've ever met. He was so intelligent. Well, what did you think about Benjamin Disraeli? And she said, he made me feel like I was the most important, the smartest person in the world. He engaged me and got into and asked me questions. The conversation was just wonderful. And when I left him at the table, I felt like I mattered to him. So here was two equally talented men in their own respect, held the highest position that Great Britain had at one time or another. But she was impacted by how that prime minister made her feel at that dinner. So we can do that too. And why would we want to do that?
Healthier relationships.
Healthier relationships. And we can practice with our own families.
I mean, it should be with our own families.
It should start there.
Yeah.
Right? And we might discover some things about our children or our spouses that we didn't really know. Because whether we know it or not, we all want to matter. And if we're not conscious that the other person wants to matter just as much as we do, we can be at conflict trying to matter. So someone has to take the lead. Someone has to be self-aware enough to know, hey, I understand this now. I want to help her or him.
Or know them.
And then put our needs on the back burner for that time, but it will come back later because the relationship nurtures, they trust us, they know we care for them, and then we can help them if we need to be. So remember that. There's 3 questions, and remember form. All right, well, we're about ready to sign off for tonight. And next week, we'll move into lesson number 5, which asks the question, how can I become a better listener? Now, this lady right here is the greatest listener I've ever known. And I'm not just saying that because she's my wife. But one of her values is listening, isn't it? It matters because I remember at one time she said I wasn't a very good listener. And she said that I made her feel like she wasn't important, that what she had to say wasn't important. And I didn't know I was doing that. But you made me aware of that. I began to try to become a better listener. And I still work on it every day. I'm still not the greatest listener, but I'm better than I was 10 years ago. And because you've taught me how to be a better listener, what to listen for and how to listen. So I'm excited about this lesson next week because this is your expertise. And I want to hear more out of you about listening skills. And I'm sure the audience does too. Well, we're out of time. We're at the end of the lesson. Somebody left some messages there.
Debbie Matheny said she's here and she can't hear.
Okay. Did anybody else have trouble hearing tonight? If you did, leave us a comment too. I'm not sure what it was. The mic is turned all the way up, but I might have some problems inside my software here. All right, well, Debbie, I'm sorry you couldn't hear. Hopefully we'll get the bugs worked out. Someone said, Tim Bogg said he heard fine.
Good job, I heard fine.
Tim, it's good to see you, buddy. Can't wait to see you in person. I hadn't seen you for a while.
I miss him.
I need a good laugh. Tim keeps me laughing. He's like my son. He can make anything funny. He's just funny himself. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in, and tune in next week at 7 p.m. But in the meantime, go to the website. I'll share it again on the screen.
Do you not have a challenge for this?
A weekly challenge. Well, you know what? I didn't work it into the lesson, but here it is. What people in your life have you failed to truly value? Now think about that. That's a tough one. I mean, it's going to take some honesty with yourself. What people in your life have you failed to truly value, and what will you do this week to change your perspective? Okay? Pick a person out. Write them down right now. Put them on a post-it note. Do something to keep that person in your awareness so that you can intentionally become a better connector with that person. It may be your spouse, it may be your child, maybe somebody at work, it may be your boss, it may be someone who works for you. It could be anybody. Who do you want to connect with on a better on a more intimate level that way? Okay? All right. You have a great week, and we're going to sign off. We'll see you next week.